Call the meeting to order at 8:34 then. Are there any public comments? Guess not, everyone's in the business. Okay. Next item is the minutes. Is it all as it should be?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Agenda, next item.
No changes to the agenda.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Consent items.
Okay, the bills payable as of today, we have the allocation amount that's sent to Winona County for my time. That's up to $5,461. That's August, September, October. And then I also have a cost share for Ben Mulholland. This is from the Whitewater well sealing grant for $21.86. So that is later in the agenda. The other thing that's out there that I have it on the list, but it's below the subtotal, is QTH, which is our Whitewater hosting renewal. It's due in December. I have not received an invoice yet, but I went ahead and did a check in the event we want to continue that through the end of 2026, but that's, so we can, that's a discussion in the agenda. The other thing that's pending, but I do not have an invoice yet, is MCIT. That bill is due in January, and I usually have it approved at the last meeting of the year, knowing that I will get an invoice in December, and I usually do an automatic check transfer. That's what they require for their deposit. So it doesn't need a signature or anything, but I do need a pre-approval. It'll be about $1,550 is what I'm anticipating. So just an okay for me to go ahead and do that, and I will go ahead and do that the day I get the invoice, and then we'll be done instead of waiting till January.
So do we need that MCAT coverage if we're disbanding?
That was the question I had, and I asked MCIT, and I haven't received a response yet, but I looked at how the Southeast Minnesota Water Resources Board did it, and they went ahead and paid ahead and then once everything was done, then they got reimbursed for that remainder portion of it. So that's kind of how I'm assuming it'll go this
We could approve according to the results of our discussions or outcome.
Right, and how MCIT says, I will find an answer from them on what should be done.
With that explanation, I'll approve the consent items.
So that was a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Consent agenda is approved with the conditions mentioned. Okay, board reports, I guess. Might as well start with Bob, work our way around.
Wabash County, we're still dealing with 2 of our 5 union contracts. We're getting pretty close on one, got a ways to go on another. Estimated market values, taxes payable next year, hit the mailbox mailboxes yesterday, and I'm sure there'll be a full house Monday night at our Tuesday, a week from Tuesday at our truth and taxation meeting. Things are pretty quiet. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, can't think of a lot except we're losing one of our good employees that's moving up to a better job hopefully, but he's still going to be housed, Matt, in our office and maybe help us out a bit when we need it, so that's good. We haven't decided about hiring anyone else because see how things go or whatever. So that's all I have. All right, Ross?
Winona County Soil and Water District, nothing too earth-shattering there, just kind of, there was some discussion about the disbanding of this board, and I guess it's the writing's on the wall that that's pretty much inevitable, but there's no more funding. I guess Olmsted County was the trigger for that.
Look at me.
Olmsted County was the first county to
Missing.
cease funding for this board. Is that an accurate statement?
I know that they did, right, stop funding.
Okay.
County board did.
That's
So-
That aligns with what I've heard too. That
So then in
Olmsted-
response to that event, Winona County Commissioners followed suit, and then I'm guessing Wabash County the same.
We will probably, we have not. We're still tweaking some budget items.
So Commissioner Elsing was at the meeting and spoke at length about those things. No, God bless him. It was a healthy discussion, a lot of comments, not about this, but about budgeting and roads and upcoming tax levy increases for Winona County. I'm sure the other counties are struggling with possible increases as well. So that was, I guess, a primary focus of our meeting was kind of preparation for what's coming down the pike there from Winona County. But otherwise, am I forgetting something, Sheila?
No, you covered it well.
Okay, thank you. That's my report.
Thanks, Ross. James?
Yeah, Olmsted and SWC, basically just had one new contract, which I don't remember what it is right now. Might have been a grass waterway. And also passed the Winlac sub-agreement amendment to, this is something that Red River wanted, and so got that passed, and then had a presentation on the new Minnesota paid leave program that's going to go into effect at the start of the year.
Okay, board discussion and action items. First thing is financial update.
Okay, so we had the updates for August. Our funds after we took out the unearned revenue was at $124,326. And so that was August. And September went down to 121,358. And October, 123,461. So not a lot of changes, after the checks from last time. And then we received some funds for doing the quarterly report on the local advisory team. And so that's kind of where we are sitting.
So just a question on, so the current balance is roughly $123,000 sitting in this account on a board that's about to be disbanded. What will happen to the money?
That will be We do have in the joint powers agreement that was most recently updated in 2019, it does detail that if this board were to terminate, that the funds, the remaining funds after bills are paid and everything, it gets dispersed to each of the counties in accordance with the number of acres that they have in the Whitewater. So Olmsted would get the largest amount, and then Winona County would be very close second, and then Wabasha County.
And then the money would go to the county level, or would it, the county commissioner's discretion, or would it go to the SWCDs, or where, that's, I'm just asking.
That's a good question. The SWCDs recently, I think since 1994, have not given money to the Whitewater Joint Powers Board. Those have been coming from the county. So I'm assuming that it by default goes back to the counties, but it would be nice if the counties decided to let the SWCDs have it for projects or something like that.
I did have a question. I mean, it's related, but some of the grants that are still have some left, what happens to that?
Right, yeah, and I do have, when we get later in we have to pay our bills and finalize reports. And then we could, once that is all taken care of, then we know what the balance is, and we'll be able to divvy it out appropriately. So we can't divvy out any money till
Right.
we're done. Yeah.
So I guess just a question, we as a board still have some authority. Can we request at least and say the remaining funds and our request should only be used for conservation projects?
That is up to this board. You can certainly make that request or recommendation.
I'll just speak on Wabasha County. I don't know what kind of support, I don't know the dollar amount. I mean, I will push that it goes to SWCD or, like you say, conservation work. I'm just one vote.
Yeah. Ross, for Winona County, the money that comes out of the Winona County budget to go to the Whitewater, what code is that? Does that impact how money received?
Well, it's part of the general fund, so
Okay.
it would return to the general fund, but then the board can designate that however they wish. So it could get put into a use of reserve code, and then an agreement written with the soil and water should they want to go on that. So the intention that I would have for Winona County would be to, for the board to decide to dissolve with that recommendation of the board and the Winona County board. There would be discussion and a list of possible uses for the funds, but ultimately it would be up to the board. But our recommendation would be to earmark it for conservation projects. That would be our recommendation as well.
It seems to me like, well, are we getting into a discussion on a particular thing here, or just
I think
general?
Kind of flowed into
Flowed.
a different thing than missed our Whitewater coordinator, but that's okay. I think it's all related.
I had the hardest time putting this agenda together. I didn't know what came first, but
Well,
anyway.
yeah, I don't know. I think from my perspective, I just assume have it. I mean, not necessarily make a recommendation one way or the other, because it's county money to begin with, apparently, and should arguably go back to county money. And then part of that's just, I mean, recently the county board is, Olmsted County Board has allocated a lot of money to SWCD projects, and I don't feel real comfortable mandating that whatever comes out of Whitewater necessarily has to be added on to that big pot.
Because you've got your additional cover crop incentives and all those sorts of things, is what you're saying. So.
I guess I'll just respectfully disagree and just say, this is all money that we've been tasked with conservation focus, and Olmsted County is much different than Winona County, I'm guessing different than Wabasha County as far as the level of funds of our producers with the cover crop program alone is unprecedented levels in Olmsted County that are not existent in Winona County and Wabasha County. So, we maybe have a slightly different perspective because the boots on the ground for conservation has not received the funding that Olmsted County boots on the ground has received.
Right, and I'm not disagreeing. I mean, if Winona and Wabasha want to specifically use that for SWCP projects, that's great. I mean, that's their choice. But on the other hand, I think that there's...
It would only be worded as a recommendation to the county boards as well. So I mean, they can tear it apart and rip it up.
I guess I'll say it a different way. I think it would be a disservice to the current existing board if the funds ended up with let's say a homeless shelter project in Winona County. That's not the purpose of us as a whole. Why are we here? We're not here for the homeless shelter in Winona County. That's someone else's discretion. That's my point, is we receive the funds, we're a board, we're going to disband, so should the funds, conservation-minded funds, go back in a conservation-minded way.
Stick with that project.
But you're probably right, it's probably, we have no authority anyway, but, it should probably just go back to the discretion of the commissioners, but I think we should make at least a request or recommendation. That's my personal.
I think the idea of making a recommendation that it goes towards conservation work, there's nothing wrong with that. And then when the individual county boards would still be able to do whatever they wanted, and then it would be on them. And we can't demand where it goes, I guess, anyway, so as far as I know. I mean, I don't know what the real stipulations are on that, but at least if we make the suggestion, we've done our best if that's what we want to do on this board. So, and then whatever happens after that, it's out of our hands, I guess.
So are you looking for board action to approve the financial update audit proposal, et cetera, or this is just a point of information?
Let me look for a second here.
I guess those decisions could be later in the agenda.
Yeah, I was thinking it was mostly discussion
The financial.
points for now, I think, so. Unless someone noticed anything different.
And I would be under 7C,
We haven't really
4C.
decided if we're disbanding yet.
Right, that's later in the, and that decision, well, when we get to that point, I can discuss the email from Skip and what I learned from county attorney.
Do you want to touch on the audit proposal?
Yeah, and that's why you there, between you and Lynn. I received an audit proposal from Katie Jacobson. She did our audit for the first time last year. We went with her because she was a lot less expensive than Peterson. And so she has the quote of ranging between $3,000 and $3,500. She was very good to work with. And once this is approved, we have to do the audit for 25. But she did put in there, and I highlighted it on yellow here, that she would have it done between August and October. And I said, well, we have to have it done before June. So she said, okay, just disregard that part of the letter, but she made a note that she will get it done before June. And between $3,000 and $3,500, based on how much time she commits to doing it, which is still less expensive than Peterson. I think their audit was $5,000, and it will be higher for this year. Yeah. So anyway, after this meeting, I will get in touch with her, and then I will ask for a defined list of what she needs, and I will put it all together in one document, so that or in one file, so that it's easy for people to get it and send her.
All right, so we'll entertain a motion then for the approval of the audit.
Also move.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Well, want to say a few words?
Sure. First of all, I just, with all the talk of unfunding and disbandment for the Whitewater, my decision to retire was made before this all happened. Ross can attest to that. He's my boss. I went and told him, hey, I'm going to retire. And it looks like the end of the year. And then all of these other things happened. But I included in the packet, I did, the day before this one, I sent a letter to the county board and county administrator informing her that I intend to retire. And so my husband retired a year and a half ago, and he's patiently waiting for me to also do the same. So that's how that came about.
Congratulations. And
Well, thank you.
and enjoy your retirement.
Well, thank you.
Well, you will be missed here.
I didn't know how stressful it would be to try and retire.
Well, you're very organized, and I'm sure you want to leave things in a good state, and I'm sure you will. So,
But I will miss the sport, definitely. And a lot of the other things I was involved with and I'm still involved with until the end of the year. But anyway, that's just the way it's coming down, and a lot of different things have been falling into place that this is the time.
No one can go on forever.
No, that's
We'll
true.
all start to think that once we get old and get a few more kids.
I know.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
Well, you will be missed, definitely, but
Thank
I
you,
assume
James.
this was an early retirement.
Actually, I'm 2 years past. So I hung in there a little bit longer than I needed to, but
I'm gonna miss Sheila, her note taking, meeting prep for other things, and
thank you.
the desserts.
And the desserts.
All right. Well, I did see a sheet in here about the Whitewater accomplishments and so forth.
Yes, I passed out, so just moving on into discussion of the Whitewater. Just wanted to set the table a little bit, and I passed out today this Whitewater accomplishments. I went through all the annual reports for the Whitewater since it was started in 1989, and compiled a list of what the Whitewater has been involved in and the projects that they've completed. And I mostly look for on the ground dirt moving projects and things like that. And I categorize them, so I couldn't tell you if you were asking what year that was. I'd have to go back to the original notes. But anyway, so cost share projects, monitoring. So these are direct payments from Whitewater projects. There were also other projects that were, we worked in partnership with NRCS and things like that didn't necessarily go through Whitewater bank account, and studies and other projects that were done. So that's what this is. And then related to the WINLAC, kind of, this is a report that I completed for the WINLAC policy committee back when they had their meeting in April, of what was accomplished at that time for the WINLAC. So this also includes Whitewater accomplishments. So this was not just projects funded by the WINLAC or the Whitewater, but anything else in it. So just kind of tracking This was 3 years in, how far we are in achieving the WINLAC goals. And the WINLAC plan, I brought it in to show James. It's right here. So, of course, the Whitewater is about 42% in land mass compared to the entire WINLAC. So there's that. And then the other thing that I did, just kind of going through the projects that we've been doing. And so if you look in the board packet, page 22, the Whitewater watershed, you know, as I was going through all the projects and where we've been and how things were established, and there was that pilot project in 1987 that was started by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they wanted to address all the sedimentation that was going into their waterfowl staging area in the Mississippi bottoms. And so they started that pilot project working in the Middle Branch, doing outreach for erosion control. And that was successful. And then in 1989, the Joint Powers Board was formed, and it was formed because there were opportunities for federal funding, and you needed a watershed entity that could hold the funds, so it needed to be a Joint Powers Board and disperse funds. So that was the entire reason the Whitewater was formed, because of the federal funding, the PL 566s that came down, and then also there was some ARA funds that after that. But, and it looked, when I was looking at year-to-year progression of the Whitewater, up through 1994, that was kind of the building years, and during those years, SWCD provided seed money to help fund, and they provided cost share in time to help with things. So that was, and during those years, the Whitewater had $314,000 during that time period. And then after the plan, there was a plan that was done in conjunction with the PL 566s, and that's when things were really ramping up, so to speak. So in 1995 through 2010, the Whitewater received $3.6 million. And so there were 17 grants or funding sources during that time. And the plan was developed, and it was kind of, when you look at the minutes, and there were movers and shakers in key places at key times to help make that happen. And one I keep pointing to is Bill Hunt. He was the NRCS.
Sea conservation.
Thank you. During that time, and he really believed in what was going on and in the Whitewater, and that things needed to happen. And he made things happen for the Whitewater during that time. And in 1998, they had a signing ceremony with NRCS for the federal funding after they had completed that report on how they will use those funds. And so that's kind of when things were big. The Whitewater had 5 people on staff at its highest point. For me, it's just 20% me right now. So there was a lot going on. And then at a point in time, starting in 2011, that's when the Whitewater, their coordinator at the time, left for another position. And about the same time, the Winona County water planner, that was Pat Bailey, left for another position. And so those 2 positions were vacant for a time. And Ross, you might know that was before I even started, but so those 2 positions were vacant on the Whitewater Board, coordinated with Winona County, and they created 1 position for the 2 entities. And Natalie Siderius had held that position initially, and then I got it. So that's kind of how a shift was made. So full-time coordinator, and with staff going down to just a part-time and shared position. And so that's that was kind of the change, and so when Natalie started and then up till now, the Whitewater has dealt with $2 million during that time frame to the current date. So that kind of gives you an idea, that definitely was, and you can kind of go into the next page of the packet, and there's the graph. Dicey, thank you for putting together the graphs. I just gave her the big spreadsheet. And so this kind of shows that we have a lot of peaks and valleys, but definitely the highest peak was during that time when we had those federal funds, the PL 566s. And, oh, Mike.
Hello.
Thanks
He
for
snuck
coming.
in.
He snuck in. You have to sign in and get a treat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So anyway, that's kind of showing you how the overall funding went, and this is a 3-year averaging for each year, so that because the graph was, because grants come and go so quickly. But then on the next page of the packet shows the breakdown of the different types of funding. So the beige in the front end of the chart are funding, and that's primarily from SWCs, and then also like a McKnight grant and things like that. And I considered those, that was seed money to get things going. So of course, there's no need after things are up and running. The biggest source of funding were federal funds, and those are in the green. So of course that's the PL 566s. And then the next greatest, and so those funds are no longer available. They stopped the PL 566s. I did one board action when I first got hired, and that was the very last one. It was delayed and extended, and so I did just one of those, and Sue Glendy had to help me do the paperwork because it was so complex. Anything in RCS is complex, but anyway, we no longer have federal funds. The next biggest source of funding that the Whitewater received historically was federal funding again, the 319 grants for impairments. And MPCA in 2020, they made a shift in how they dispersed. They used to be competitive funds. I could write a grant for dealing with nitrates in the middle branch or whatever, and I would get funding to do that. Those are they no longer have competitive funding anymore. What they do instead is you can set a letter of interest, and if you get awarded, it would be for a very small watershed. It could no longer be for something the size of the entire Whitewater. It was like a HUC 12 watershed. And so they put money towards these very small focused watershed programs. And so Cascade Creek is one, East or West Indian Creek, number 2, I think. And so West Indian Creek. So when those very small watersheds get selected, they get 16 years of funding to help address everything in that small watershed. So the next available opportunity for the small focused watershed program is 2034, or was it 35, Dicey? We were looking at the numbers. Anyway, it'll be a while before there's the next round of funding for that type of program. So that's done. So the 2 top funding sources for the Whitewater are now gone. And then the other one is the Bowser grants, the competitive funding. Those have been decreasing each year. They're still there, but the amount of dollars in that pot goes down each year because each year there's more money available to implement for the One Watershed, One Plan program. So that's just kind of, the one source is going up while the other one is going down. And so that one, it's still there, but it's more competitive. So just wanted to show you where the funding sources were coming from and how that all plays out in each year that we have funding for the Whitewater. And so this is, the next page is the pie chart showing you, Mike, did you want one of these?
Oh, sure, that'd be great.
And the pie chart showing the overall funding sources historically for the Whitewater since it started. And so you can see that a lot of our funding sources are historically that we've received have diminished. And the county allocation is this maroon color. And 6% is the Bowser funding right here that we've had more recently in the past. And one of them is that well sealing grant. And the 319 grants are the blue, and that's 20%. 31% are other funds, and federal funds are 29%. So most of the pie are funds, more than half of the funds are no longer available to the Whitewater. So I just wanted to show where we've been at historically. And then, of course, I passed around the sheet on what the Whitewater has accomplished since it started. So that's just kind of the overview of accomplishments and trends in funding. Do we want to go to the next item?
Well, Olmsted County decision.
Yes, and I can, I've got the email from Skip that we had received. And before I got this email, I did have a meeting with Skip and Caitlin, and they said, we saw the internal memos, and Whitewater is not on the list for 2026. So that's the first that I had heard about it initially. But this was dated October 21st, and basically, it just says the Olmsted County Board, along with staff, have been discussing our participation in the Whitewater and for the 2026 budget discussions and funding decisions. And they have decided to not fund the Whitewater for 2026. And the reason is Minnesota's rise in clean water funding through the Clean Water Land and Legacy Sales Tax Amendment, and shift away from county by county water planning toward watershed-based funding like the WINLAC, while increasing the collaborative efforts between counties, SWCs, and municipalities, and under the One Watershed, One Plan program. A collaborative joint powers Whitewater watershed management plans, and then the Policy Advisory Committee made up of county commissioners, SWCs, and supervisors from southeast Minnesota cities help guide local environmental resources staff in the implementation of these watershed plans. So Olmsted County, they have 3 plans that they deal with. They have the ROOT, they have the WAGs, which is the Sunbro, and the WINLAC. So they have 3 that they deal with. And Olmsted County has an important piece of the Mississippi Winona-La Crescent, the agricultural headwaters, where targeted practice implementation can be critical to long-term water quality improvements. We believe that beneficial impacts to the Whitewater watershed through the One Watershed, One Plan planning and funding has replaced the need for a joint powers agreement to continue to provide watershed protection oversight. And this oversight is built into each comprehensive watershed plan for their 10-year plans that they have. And then at our September meeting, the county commissioners, the decision was made to defund its support for the Whitewater Joint Powers Board of its Olmsted share, which is $8,100. We feel that One Watershed, One Plan has picked up this important watershed management effort in the Whitewater and larger WINLAC watershed, and will continue to lead this effort into the foreseeable future. And we wanted to give Winona and Wabasha counties ample notice and opportunity to build this Whitewater Joint Powers Board discussion into their environment and financial planning for 26. Yeah, so that's the highlights of the email received from Skip. So that's kind of Olmsted County's position right now.
That is their position.
Yeah, they're not, it's not in their budget. And I don't know, James, did you want to add more? I didn't, no, David didn't let me know if he was coming today or not.
I wasn't involved with that particular decision.
Yeah, I knew you weren't involved, and Skip was planning on being here, but he's on vacation this week. So I've got his email, and that's as far as we've got.
All right. Question?
I've got a few questions on the bylaws, if now is a good time to bring that up.
Well, maybe we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. we
Let's
will.
just
Okay.
touch on, if you wouldn't mind, Sheila, option to continue without additional funding, just what are the
Right,
parameters there?
yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of where we're at with Olmsted County deciding to defund their portion. And so talked with Dave Copeland, and his question to me was, well, how much, do you have enough money in reserves to continue without funding? And well, yes, we do for a time. So that is an option. But and then I know I had a conversation with Skip, and one of the things he brought up as well, you could ask the WinLAC for funding to provide, to help with that administrative piece for the Whitewater, but that doesn't make sense to ask WinLAC for funding to help support when they're already paying me to do the administrative pieces for the WinLAC. So it just seemed redundant to me. But I suppose that is not, the bylaws say 4/6 of the partners would officially disband. So you could
I
continue.
would have a hard time supporting using WPIF money
I agree.
to support another entity.
I agree with that, and I
Doesn't
that
make
was,
sense to me.
yeah, but, so I don't agree with that, like, I agree with what you said, and, so that is, we could continue, we could go ahead and disband, taking the cue from Olmsted County. And I know, and I did, inform Josh, and he would have been here today, but he's stranded. And, so I know, and I don't know in what capacity he has discussed this with the board at all. I don't, they haven't had.
They've been
this.
alerted.
They've been, yeah, because they know I'm retiring for one, but, anyway,
All righty, well, let's get to the consider disbanding, and we can incorporate Dave's question, because I did look over some things where there's actually, they thought that was a possibility, or it's in the bylaws, so let's cover that now.
right.
So,
So my first question is, the bylaws were amended in 2019. But as I look through it, I have a hard time seeing what was amended. What was this? Why did they need to amend it? Remember, I thought I might see some strikeout language, but it's not in there.
Well, I
I'm just curious.
I'm trying to remember, and I think Matt Flynn, he was the chair at the time, and
It
he
looks like
said,
it's been amended like 4 times
Right.
over the course of the board.
right, so I have a copy of the 1987 agreement between the SWCDs, and that was for the pilot project. And then the Joint Powers Board, when it officially started as a board with commissioners involved, was in 1989. And then it was updated in 1995. That would have been after they approved the watershed plan, right. And it seems, as I recall,
I wonder if it was maybe because of the data practices and records retention, it might have been a new
Maybe.
legislation that's in
That
the-
might be, I know
Yeah.
Matt Flynn recommended, and he was the chair at the time, says we need to have this updated.
Okay,
And so then I worked with Karen Sonneman
okay.
and Tom Canan and Carrie. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so went through and redid, and I, as far as there wasn't anything drastically that was changed, it was time for an
Yeah.
update.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was just a little bit before my time. I don't
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
recall.
yeah, but
I
I
think
worked,
I actually remember
Huh?
some of those meetings. But I can't remember how did I do now that you're talking about it, and after I read
yeah,
through some
and,
stuff.
and there was a lot of going back and forth, it took like 4 months to get it, because, one attorney would say, okay, this is it, and then Tom Canan did a lot of edits, and then it went back to the other two, and I think even Tom and Karen were on the phone going, talking about it, but that's how I recall it being updated.
Yeah. So when I look at the termination language in the
Yes.
bylaws, and that's something that the board should look at and consider
Yep.
whether that email you got from Skip constitutes the county terminating its membership on the joint powers board.
Right, and
To me, it doesn't, but that's a decision that you want to make.
I wonder the same thing. I took it as, we're not gonna fund, we'll let the other two counties know.
But they're not saying that they're out of the board.
Right, and, right, it was their financial
Yeah,
committee.
okay.
Yeah, and so what I did is I went through the Southeast Minnesota Water Resources Board minutes. I compared, not that I'm a lawyer, but I looked, and it looked like our joint powers agreement, a lot of it was cut and pasted or very similarly worded to their joint powers agreement. And their termination language was identical. And what they did, they had a meeting of their board and they decided to disband. And then they had the next meeting and they connected with MCIT, and MCIT recommended that since the boards individually formed that joint powers board, the boards individually need to vote and decide. So that's how they did it. They had a resolution to terminate or disband that went to the individual boards. And I believe all 10 of those boards signed on, and then it went back to the board, and then they were able to say, by this date, we're terminating. So that's how they did it. I connected with MCIT. I have not received the response from them yet, but I connected with Steve Kranz at Assistant County Attorney, and he reviewed, and he concurs that the individual boards need to sign a resolution. He said that this board, when we meet today, could sign a recommendation to resolve that would go to the boards. So that's what I have here, and I can pass this out. And if there's any errors in it, I just got this downloaded from Steve this morning. And it's basically worded exactly as he recommended. Because I sent him the example of what the Water Resources Board did. And this is what he came up with. And I had on my sample resolution to disband, he said use the word terminate because that's what is used in the joint powers agreement. So that's the terminology he used. But anyway, that's kind of where we sit. just one page. Well, 2 pages.
My last question or comment on the joint powers agreement, and I don't remember the discussion when the board decided to go to quarterly meetings rather than bi-monthly.
And that doesn't
meetings.
agree with the,
It
I
doesn't
know.
agree with, so,
I know.
I'm, just a point of reference. If you decide to stay on, you probably should consider amending your joint powers agreement
Yeah.
or going back to semi-monthly meetings.
yeah, that's, I did notice that when I thought, oh, yeah, that's kind of a disadvantage of having
Yeah,
something like that in
on
your.
the scale of importance of things, it's not
Yeah.
that important, but
Yeah.
this, yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, though,
Yeah.
I did notice that as well. So,
Plenty of ways to make some mistakes or
I know,
supposed mistakes.
yeah,
So, because one entity decided to stop funding, now we're all supposedly joining together and make a decision without anyone
Right.
really saying
And-
they were
and
out. Is that what I'm getting?
and I
Because
suppose you know, the decision doesn't have to happen today with this board, but the final decision rests with all the individual boards by resolution. And so this would be a resolution, a recommendation to, it's down, now therefore be resolved, the Whitewater Board recommends, this is the part that Steve Kranz said to insert, recommends that each county and SWCD, who is a party to the Joint Powers Agreement, vote to terminate the Whitewater Joint Powers Board and terminate the Joint Powers Board Agreement upon the following terms. And the terms are effective upon the date that at least 2/3 of the counties and SWCDs who are parties to the agreement execute their signature below. And that's the Whitewater Joint Powers is hereby terminated. The Whitewater Board Joint Powers Agreement is terminated. And notwithstanding the above terminations, the parties each agree that they shall cooperate in good faith to wind down the activities of the Joint Powers Board in accordance with all applicable excuse me, federal, state, and local laws. And so,
I think it makes good sense not to waste taxpayer dollars on an extra board that's not needed, but I, in the back of my head, think about how soon would it have been till Wabasha and Winona had thought of that on our own or whatever, that we didn't want to fund anymore. So that's the question. I don't know, it's just a question.
It's probably not my place to say this, but you look at the way number 4 is written in the resolution, and the SWCD is an equal party on board to the county. So to me, it almost says that you're going to disperse the funds to 6 entities based on their ratio consistent with contributions. And what does contributions mean?
Well, that's the
really
fact.
that comes from the counties, yeah.
But
I don't know. I'll be quiet.
it's really, makes it complicated though if you think about maybe some labor or help in projects or whatever. I mean, it's too much to probably even backtrack. I mean, it wouldn't be worth our time, but
Right.
Honestly, it's probably a discussion that would be best served when there are 6 members of the Joint Powers Board that take enough for. Would you agree, Bob?
Yep.
I mean, there's 2 county commissioners missing today. So,
Yep.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like estate planning.
Right.
You got more than
Yeah.
one kid, fair is noisy.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
Winona,
I'll be-
Wabasha, Homestead, just those 3 counties.
Yeah, so we have the Olmsted County Commissioner is not here, Josh is not here.
so as far as if we did just hold off, would that be the end of the world until we actually had maybe a full complement to make the decision, just so everyone has a
Right.
voice?
So if, my opinion, this is a powerful graph, the funding
Yeah.
is depleted, and, I mean, this is kind of the writings on the wall that that's a bad trend line. So if we delay, then we no longer have a coordinator, so then what does that look like? Does the Winona County have to coordinate, someone need to appoint a new coordinator? Go ahead, Sheila.
Yes, so Dicey Spring here, she's a new hire at Winona County, and she's been doing an excellent job, and she's been doing a lot of recording for me. And so she could fill in, after I retire, and that was a discussion that we had is, when we're talking, after I retire, then there's dispersing of funds. If there's any checks that need to be signed, it would be good to have Ross Dunsmore as that second signature if we need somebody in between meetings. We have potentially checks to go to Bowser, Wabasha County. Whenever we do the audits, they always send a bill for $30 to gather the information that's requested for the audit. But the other two counties don't, but
Yeah.
each county is different. And, so there's things like that, so to make the transition easier, it would be nice to have Ross designated to help assist with that. Dicey could help with the QuickBooks. She's already been doing QuickBooks. She's very good at it. She learned a lot faster than I did.
Well, I'll just echo off of what Ross says, the funding, we're at the end of the funding.
Right.
Whether you're retiring or staying is really
That's right. Yeah.
irrelevant.
Right.
If we, would approve today to pursue disbanding and termination, it's not gonna happen before the end of the year.
No.
So,
Yeah. The Water Resources Board took at least 4 months.
and I guess I'm kind of, if that's the path we're gonna go down, which seems pretty imminent, let's do it and get it done, get moving forward.
And I guess I'm going to agree with that, and based upon this was discussed with our county commissioner Elsing in the room, and he was privy to it and discussed it, and it seemed like the message I received,
So,
a consensus position by their board is that this is inevitable. The disbanding of Whitewater Joint Powers Board is inevitable.
So Josh maybe wasn't in favor of disbanding, but he was okay with it, or how would you?
No, I would say that it was discussed, he's aware of it, am I speaking out of line? And by the way, Ross, next to me, another Ross.
Not a lot of us out there.
Not a lot of us until the sitcom Friends helped us out. But anyway, so yeah, I guess that would Commissioner Elsing be shocked to hear that we made a recommendation? No, he would not.
No,
Yeah.
this is the discussion I have been having with him after, and then when he received the email from Skip, he wanted to make sure that the case was made that if this board goes away, that doesn't mean that there won't be things happening in the Whitewater for conservation, that, the WinLAC will be picking that up, and it will be, and it has been. But he just wanted to make sure that that is something the constituents he thought would like, that would make sense, that we have two entities that are dealing with this same geographic area. Why are we having two entities? And I know that has been brought up from time to time with this board. And anytime it was talked about, it was, well, we still don't have the WinLAC up and running and fully implemented right now. And,
So point of information would be, so your retirement will happen here shortly, so will Dicey take over the position, the relationship with, the position with the WinLAC? So will she fill your shoes with the WinLAC?
That is yet to be determined.
yeah,
But
that
the
part is, yeah.
Who is that?
Representations I've
who-
made to county administration would be that we will absorb the duties internally until final decisions are made.
So who makes the final decision, the county board? and
The county
whatnot?
board.
Okay, gotcha.
Ultimately, because Sheila's position is a combination position between many different grant funding, and then there is a county supplement to that. We would either have to go forward with a part-time position, or the county would have to support funding the supplement to fund a full-time position. We do have grant funds available for the next 18 months where we would be able to support it full-time, but at the end of that, if we brought somebody on that, we would have to end up laying them off, and I don't think there's a desire to do that.
And when Ross became the department head, he still is doing his previous job too. So there's pieces of his, well, you're still doing it, but, so there's pieces of what his former position held, and then there's my pieces, and I guess I kind of envision they all get set on the table and all the puzzle pieces, and they get put together in a different way perhaps, or
That's what we're
whatever.
doing.
Yeah,
Trying
so that's,
trying to determine.
that's
who can
after I'm
be
done.
organized. But at this point, we need to hear from the board.
yeah.
What is your recommendation in evaluating everything? And then in turn, each county's board will also need to weigh in on it. In the meantime, we will keep things going to the best of our ability.
Well, it appears that no one's being blindsided, and have sort of a cohesive agreement, I think. And we got pretty good representation here with 2/3 of the members of this board. So I don't have anything against if someone wants to recommend going forward with some sort of a transition
So-
plan or whatever.
So looking number 4, I believe we've hit the review of the joint powers agreement. We've seen the resolutions, we haven't really addressed B, but the transition plan.
Right. So that's later in your,
Oh, is it in our packet?
yeah, page 38 and 39.
Okay.
Question.
Sure.
Is there a date set yet for your next joint powers agreement?
February 24th.
Well, I'm just thinking, would it make sense in this resolution to have a date? Because I think, each member is going to go back to their individual boards now with this. Would it make sense that there be a February 28th, 2026 date for the last day? So then that would, have your hours board meeting before that last day.
The audit,
Okay.
we have to finish the audit.
So it doesn't make sense to have that date.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And so that would depend on the auditor when I get in touch with her, saying, how soon can you get this done? She can't start it till after the first of the year.
Maybe the resolution is open-ended on when it ends, but
Right.
that you're just moving towards termination. Okay.
That would depend on when the audit is done. Because that would be the last financial payment that we need to do to pay the auditor and to be able to close things out.
Also, we have to go until we've got everything concluded that needs to be
Right.
done.
That's why I'm proposing having everything getting a list from her. What does she need? Just give me her right now.
So just a devil's advocate question, so if we're gonna conduct, if the board that remains conducts business in 2026, won't it require an audit in 2027 for 2026 business?
If that was one thing that I thought, well, that if we finish our grants in 2025, and those are all taken care of, there's nothing to report in 2026, nothing to receive in 2026, so then you don't have any transactions to audit. So that would be later in the agenda, how we, if we can do it that way.
Must be some way to word that.
Huh? There must be
Some way to word that so it all comes out smooth at the end. But I don't know if I can think of it right now.
Well, all financial transactions need to be complete, except for dispersing to the entities. That has to be done before,
Business year.
yeah, and accounted for in an audit.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Okay.
But you don't know how much the audit is gonna be exactly.
It'll be between 3,000, 35, and
Right,
3,500,
yeah.
so depending on how many hours it takes for her to do that. And so a lot of the audit is as of December 31st. So when we get the bank statements in January, there will be what is in the money market, so that is all based on what's in the accounts on that date. And so that's how, so it looks from January 1 through December 31st, that window. So that audit can't be started till January at the very earliest, when I get the statements. Or I can check online too and get that information. And then, so then there would be a document that the chair would sign and I would sign saying this is our account balance as of December 31st. And so then that initiates the audit process. So that's the best I can do right now.
Well, that's the goal.
Right.
All right. So
When you say I, you're talking Dicey.
Yeah, I say Dicey, right.
All right.
Dicey will have, in fact, that'll be one of the things that I'll probably do with her in December is go to the bank with her and make sure that she signs documents that she needs to sign. One thing I will have to bring is minutes from this meeting that says her name, that she is going to be acting as the coordinator for the Whitewater to be able to do those pieces. So, and it doesn't have to be a signed, a draft minutes will work. That's how I've done it before with the signatures for our, because both of you can sign, and James can sign, but not Ross. And Josh.
all right. I've been so involved in thinking about everything.
I know you
I
have.
can't remember where we are. Did we even make a motion
No, we
to
didn't.
start things in motion? So that's what we should do.
Just one question, something for a little clarification on this MCIT EDP inventory.
Mhm.
There's $3,700, camera, some similar stuff.
Yep.
So, is that solely owned by the Whitewater, or is that
Yes.
shared? No.
That's owned by the Whitewater. Most of that is monitoring equipment that we purchase from grant funds. to be able to do the SWAG grant, the water quality grant that we did in 2020 and 2021. So that's what most of that equipment is. Ross reviewed the list. It appears that it might be a racket with the,
Well,
because this equipment, according to Ross, I'll check with the MPCA, but this equipment is using this equipment to do water quality monitoring, it can no longer be accepted. You have to buy new equipment.
okay.
It's marked as obsolete. Basically,
Yeah.
they turn them over so rapidly.
Sure.
It's hard to get, sometimes it's hard to get the materials to
I
continue.
mean, where I'm going with this, cash is pretty easy to disperse.
Right.
Your portion, your portion, your portion.
Yep.
Equipment is something that, you
Yes.
know,
Does that cop machine still work?
It should. It might
Has
need a
it-
new memory.
Has it run samples for a while?
It was last used in 2021. When we did the monitoring.
Because, I mean, there's still a lot of hot machines in use running
I know.
well water samples. So if
Yeah.
it's still a usable machine, if it just needs, you may be able to easily find a home for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
and the other thing, the roller crimper, the mirror calibration spreaders, maybe the video equipment, I'm pulling that off of the,
Oh, okay, the roller crimper, it was purchased with grant funds, but Wabasha and.
in charge of it.
They, yeah, so that was,
On the SWCD side
Mhm.
already.
yes, yep,
Okay. Video equipment for farmer interviews.
those all went to the SWCDs. So that, we got, that was a 319 grant that was not used by somebody else in the state, and they needed to spend money fast. And so it was kind of like a Christmas in July event for the SWCDs. Is there any equipment that you need for doing things? So each of the SWCDs purchased videography equipment, and then we purchased the roller crimper. We did pay out on a cost share project. So that was all through the MPCA, and so those are not owned by the Whitewater, but by the SWCDs.
Okay. So I guess, with the clarification on equipment and different things, I would make the motion to move toward disbanding the Whitewater Joint Powers Board.
This resolution.
You're making a motion to
Yes.
sign the letter of recommendation that we disband? Is that,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. And then, so what I will do is, using the version of the resolution for the partners, get that sent out to each of the individual boards so that they can make that same motion based on the recommendation.
Okay, so Whitewater well sealing grant update?
Well, we gotta talk about the page 38. Transition plan. I'm sorry, I'm out of order.
Well,
I knew I'd
No.
do things out of order on the.
the chair always welcomes information to make me not get too far off track.
So on page 38 and 39 are, I just kind of put together a draft transition plan, transitioning from board to termination. So at the top, we have the audit is scheduled with Katie Jacobson. And so the state requires that we have that finished by June 30th. I will see if she can move us up. And then And then the other thing I will do, I will confirm that from the state auditor if one is required for 2026. I doubt that there will be, but I will confirm that. And then we'll do the resolutions to the partner boards. Existing grants, we have the Whitewater well sealing grant, and we have the local advisory team grant. The well sealing grant, right now, it ends at the end of this year. At our last meeting, the board wanted to see that brought to this board meeting to extend. So I have the amendment to extend it a year. Do we want to end it or extend it? That's the discussion. And then the local advisory team grant for the DWSMAs, that goes until June of 2027. So that's the other existing grant. We have existing funds. We have two accounts, the checking and the money market, that are both held at Lewiston at Maine West. And so we have debts to pay, and then disperse among the 3 counties as detailed within the joint powers agreement based on percentage of county in the Whitewater, and then closing existing accounts. And cancellation of websites. The Whitewater has 2 websites. We have the Whitewater website, and then we have a WinLAC website, or not a WinLAC, Mississippi Winona website. So we pay the hosting and the domain renewal for both of those. We're all paid up except the one, the Whitewater hosting is expiring December 23rd. So there's a decision to be made about that. Excuse me. So right now, there's some educational pieces that are on those websites that can be pulled. Dicey has a lot of expertise with websites, a lot more than I do. So I'm hoping that we can salvage things off of there that could be used by other entities as well. Nancy North did both of those websites, and if you remember Nancy, she really has a gift for making things concise and easy to understand for the general public and putting it into a website. And anything that she's done has been well received. So anyway, I'd like to salvage as much as we can from those, and then I think there would need to be a definite action to close. And Dicey, you were telling me how that can be done online.
Well, I mean, as far as like the hosting.
Right.
I'm gonna be talking to Steve Minnick with Rowan County with our website to see what options he might have.
Okay.
And as far as like salvaging some of the content, but otherwise, I mean, if you stop paying the hosting, like domain fees,
They'll go away, right? So anyway, there's some IT things that need to happen.
Question on content on there, because you mentioned Nancy North.
Mhm.
That plot work that was done years ago.
What work?
The plot work where she talked about all the different plots around and had a story
Oh.
for each farmer. What was that called?
Oh,
That's not on, is that?
that's not on there.
That's not on there?
That's a
Okay.
different, that's Together website.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay,
different
that's the other-
website, and WinLAC actually pays for that one.
Okay,
So that's
okay.
indifferent, yeah. Yeah, that, she did really well on that website as well.
Yeah.
Working together or growing, I
Yep,
forget.
but I
Yeah.
can't think of it
Yeah,
right
it's,
now.
no, this is not with the Whitewater.
Okay.
And so anyway, there's some coordination that needs to happen with those websites. And then ensuring proper storage of records. We have minutes, we have financial records, we have grant records. Some of the grants, I think all of the grants that we have, typically as the last day of the grant, 7 years beyond that is what you can keep it for, and then then you don't have to keep it. So where the records are going to be kept, it makes sense that right now they're at Winona County because that's where my office is. So that's a discussion, a decision. And disbursement of properties, physical properties. For Whitewater, we have 2 file cabinets. One is a big lateral cabinet that locks, and that's where I keep the checkbooks and stuff like that. And then we have a shorter, standard size file cabinet. We have general office supplies, and then we have this EDP inventory, which primarily includes the monitoring equipment that was purchased and our camera. When we got rid of the office in Lewiston, then we sold that computer, so we don't have any of those types of things. But we do have the camera. So nothing needs to be decided now, but something to think about for the next meeting. Thoughts on how those will be
Some of
discussed.
these things, maybe we just can't arbitrarily decide because maybe someone will have use or there'll be options for someone
But
can
they're
use
owned by the
things.
board, so
And
those
then-
are.
Great.
But there again, if some of the equipment is deemed obsolete and somebody can use it, put it to use where you can.
Does the hot machine have a Pelican case with it?
It's got a case. It's got a
That's my
case.
opinion.
I think-
Want me to take pictures of it and send it to you?
Would you want to offer it to the SWCD
Yeah.
for sure?
Well,
Would
I
be
mean,
another
if they
option.
can, if they can use it, I mean,
Offer it to them first.
Okay.
There'd be an option here, right, to sell this equipment, right? And then you just have funds and all you have to do is disperse funds.
That would be an option too, whatever the board decides.
Whatever the board decides. The board has
Yeah.
options here, it's just, yeah, don't get too hung up.
no, I mean, if you can get something for it, fine. If it's a donation to an organization or if it can be used, disperse of it is my opinion.
I would ask the SWCDs about that.
But to the point of, the public comment would be, just make sure all Homestead, Winona, and Wabasha County equally have a
Access.
awareness that it's available.
Yep.
So they each have a chance to say,
To
and then
speak for
if they
something.
are gonna fight over it, well then the board will sell it to the highest bidder then, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Okay. That was the hardest part.
Should we do a motion on that?
Pardon?
Did you want to do a motion on that?
Do we want a motion on that? Or SWCDs to have first dibs on that?
So I'll make a motion to, as far as the EDP inventory, regarding the EDP inventory, I make a motion to offer the entire inventory equally to all 3 counties.
SWCD. Sure.
Thank you to the Winona County SWCD, Wabasha County SWCD, Homestead County SWCD equally. And if there's multiple interest in a single item, then we sell to the highest bidder.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
So, what about the Whitewater well sealing grant?
Yep. Okay, so we have the Whitewater well sealing grant, and Olmsted County had one recently sealed well that they approved at their meeting last week that we need to pay, since we have the funds to do that, and that is for Ron Mulholland. And I didn't have at the time, I didn't have the voucher, but I have since received it, and it's with the check, which is right in front of Bob. But they paid The cost of sealing the well was $2,915, and the contract amount was $2,808.75, and payment owed for the cost share portion is at 75%, $2,186.25. And so that is completed. And also, unrelated to this, he had a new well drilled along with, so he drilled a new well and then sealed the old one. So that needs to be approved today. And I've got the check in front of Bob.
I'll move to approve the cost share and the well sealing decommissioning.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. And then back to the Whitewater well sealing grant. So that closes that, if, assuming we end this grant, that will be the last thing. And I could do the final report and close on it, or we could continue that into 2026. It's up to this board, but if you continue it, then there's the risk of having to pay an audit fee because we have a grant continuing.
Can our extension of that grant also request at the same time it go to, was it the WinLac that was going on?
Well, the WinLac,
Or the Lance?
we do have some funds that's all spoken for the well sealing. I did go to a meeting of the SWCD district managers, and the idea was brought forth to have a regional grant for the 8-county area that matches the EPA petition. And Riley Dooley from Fillmore SWCD wanted to do that. So he's going to do a grant application, so there will be likely, and I know that in this particular funding round, higher priority is going to Southeast because of that, or can I?
Yeah, it's not guaranteed.
Okay, not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Well, I guess where I'm going, I would like to avoid an audit for 2026, but I would like to keep the grant funds somewhat local if we can. I believe you told me in the past, Dave, we can extend it, and then also it could be handed over for
Right, so
administration by.
I have a grant amendment prepared, and
And
it's
that's
part of your
what-
packet.
Yep.
Yep.
So if we execute that grant amendment, the new expiration date would be December 31st, 2026. And then subsequent to that, the grant itself could be transferred to a new fiscal agent. Most likely, one of the counties or one of the SWCDs in the but the geography of the projects would need to stay within the Whitewater watershed. So you couldn't start
See the
taking
wells.
care of well ceilings in the zone.
Sure.
Yeah.
But from what I understand too, there's not a shortage of well sealing money right now.
Well, each watershed partnership has the ability to do well ceilings within their watershed based implementation funding grants. So that in and of itself tells you that there are funds to seal wells. It just depends on whether each partnership wants to do that. It really is a decision of the board and whoever might be working on this in January, whether you wanted to extend that grant a year or whether you wanted to ask Sheila to wrap it up in December.
And then we'll be done with it. The money goes somewhere.
The money would go back to the state. They're clean water funds, so it would be cycled back through, and it would be probably part of, I think it gets a new 5-year shelf life then. so it would be put in with the other clean water funds that are distributed.
So how much of that $30,000 grant is remaining?
About 20, but we've only received half of it right now.
Right.
And so with this cost share that we approved, plus some administrative time, I think it'll be about, if I close out the grant, before the end of the year, Bowser would get a check for about $6,000 to $6,500, depending how that last report goes. And,
I mean, I agree with Dave and what you're saying, that there's funds for well sealing within the One Watershed, One plans. That are probably adequate, and so I didn't know if it'd be worth trying to hang on to it.
yeah, I thought of that too, but then the other part of me is like, if we finalize it, then it makes it less complicated for Lacey.
It is an issue of cash on hand,
Right.
which could trigger the need for additional water.
Is
Yep.
that the thing listed on this page 9? where-
Yep, yep,
So the 15,000 is just half of the 30,000?
right, that's all we received.
And
Yep,
it's that 15's been received, there's another 15
yep.
for
So-
next year, and there's like the 80, almost 9,000 left
Right.
in the initial 15,000.
So if you look at at any of the monthly reviews at the beginning of the packet, and it says Whitewater well sealing grant, 15,000 was received. That's unearned revenue. They give it to us up front, but we haven't spent it yet. And then below is what has been spent. So we've got expenses, cost share, balance. So the 8,957 for the September month. But now we have to subtract cost share for this well,
Yeah.
plus some additional time.
So quick question, will this next payment for the Olmsted well, will that put you over the 50%?
No,
Oh, so
No.
you'd still, what you'd be returning is part of that first 50%?
Right.
Okay.
right, yep. And so in order to do, if I do that, and you said they need a check, right?
Yeah.
So then I will need a check before the end of the year and get signatures, and I can track down, or else if Ross would be able to be the second signature, I can get Josh and somebody. But, so it's closed out and done.
Yep.
I could go either way, but I'm sorry to say, I have to have a 4-minute recess.
Okay.
I think probably just closing it out would be the best path forward.
Yeah, 'cause there is money. Yeah,
I just went down there.
it does, doesn't it?
I was everything. And I said, okay, I was part of that.
I know, I learned so much by going through it.
It's like, okay, those are baby
I
steps
found some,
I took.
I found some pictures that I have to disperse.
I'm glad you reminded me that I took 220 baby steps.
I'm thinking, this started when I was a young man. And I was here for it.
It wasn't part of my
I
job.
heard in the 90s.
Yeah, when did it start?
1989?
89. Yep.
I was here from 92 to 2000.
I had a little one when I was living in Iowa.
Was it a lot?
So like, Well, through, no, that would have been 2007.
Sheila, do you have any idea where Shelley Atwell is these days?
I have no idea.
I'm thinking about some of the different coordinators that are used.
Yeah.
I'll throw that.
I'll move to, after this sealing that was just approved, have direct staff to close out the remaining well sealing grant from Moser.
Second.
Return the fund.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Amen. Motion passes. All right. What's the LAT grant? I can't
The
remember.
local advisory team, I'm sorry, I should have spelled that out. I knew better. Anyway, this is the DWSMA grant that we do for support for Don and Mike and for what they're doing with working with the farmers that are in the DWSMAs because they have, they're in level 2, so this would be Utica, Altura, and Elgin. And, want to say anything?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna miss Sheila's note-taking and getting the meeting together and sending out all this stuff because now Mike and I have to do that. When we go, if you guys go through this and you finish out, Sheila turns in the, last invoice before the end of 2025, the same thing, kind of like the Bowser grant. That one would get closed out, that money would go back into the clean water funds. But Sheila did reach out to Wabasha and Winona SWCDs about their interest in helping with that, and it sounds like we have some interest.
Yes. Terry Peters, she says, well, I already have an MDA grant. She says it wouldn't be that much extra, so either, jointly but definitely Terry is interested in administering that grant. And I know one of the discussions Terry mentioned is, well, since they already have an MDA grant, and that just be folded into it. And I didn't know the answer at the time because I wasn't sure, because of this grant is tied to regulatory pieces. I wasn't sure how that
Well,
melds.
I did have a short conversation with my supervisor. We do have to ask a few more questions to upper administration, the people who do our contracting, but it sounds promising because we do have a grant with them, and that is for
Deanna?
Yeah, Deanna and Amanda and Winona are working on nutrient management, manure management plan, outreach, education, providing that planning, doing manure spreader calibrations, stuff of that nature, education outreach on BMPs, which all relates directly back to kind of the same discussions we have in the LATs. So it really fits well within that. So we're gonna discuss that option more, but it'd be the same process, I believe, as what the well sealing grant.
Right. So, and Deanna and Amanda are already working with the same landowners. So, and it ties really well. And I think hindsight being 2020, that would have been initially when this grant started. That would have been nice to have that set up with what that happened after this grant started. So I think it does lend itself that it fits really well. So nothing will get lost there.
So the question that I would have, and this is partially internal for MDA, is do we need to have that, because what I'm coming back to here is making sure you guys don't have to do an audit in 26. Do we, as MDA, need to have either termination or an amendment to that current agreement before the end of December, so then none of those funds potentially, we don't have any overlap there, so then you don't have any issues with the audit in 26.
I did print out the page from the agreement itself.
Yeah.
And there is a sentence on termination that either party can terminate this this agreement without cause, or with or without cause, with a 30-day notice. So
So it needs to happen soon.
So if this board decides that,
Right,
I can,
yep.
we can do that and say as of end of December and it's done.
Yeah. But that would need to be decided now.
Today.
Yeah. So that would either be the MBA deciding that or this board deciding.
Either way it works, I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
don't mess with your guys' 26.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it would be best, like, if the board decided that that 30-day notice is provided to MDA, and Mike and I can take it from there.
Okay. Yep.
My guess is an email with
Yeah.
the
You can
meeting
say,
minutes or
yeah.
something.
Yep. We can do that.
So, do we want to act on that then?
Probably shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe prudent.
I would move to have Sheila and staff work to close out the LAT grant with MDA and try and have MDA keep that program going.
Yeah, but the agreement with us, with Whitewater is ended, yes.
By 12/31. Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have anything that needs to be said, just to double check? All right. Well, I don't know about the next meeting thing now. We're gonna meet then anyway.
Well, the
probably.
regularly scheduled meeting would be on February 24th.
Okay, so we're gonna get our business taken care of though, so we don't have anything dragging,
Right.
from what I understand. So then that'll just be the final closeout.
Hopefully, but that audit's still included. So that would
See
be,
how that goes, if you can expedite it a bit or whatnot, but we can be flexible probably if we have to
Mhm.
finish things up, so. All right,
Would it work better to not have a February meeting and just delay it until
Autumn's-
that's a thought.
May or?
we can maybe make that
whatever the
decision
next
later,
quarterly
even
one.
not on the board. We can,
Although, you have to have quarterly meetings, I assume you do actually, probably.
Your bylaws said
I don't know.
No.
I'm flexible if someone said there wasn't any business.
Well, if there's no business, it would need to be noticed that there is no meeting. And then the next scheduled meeting would be May,
End of May,
yeah, that fourth,
latter part of May.
yeah.
So whatever works best. I mean, I'm open to,
But it would would need to be noticed that there is no meeting.
Yeah.
And then having one in May, and then I would hope that the audit stuff would be done by then. But in the meantime, I could have the resolutions be going out to the partner boards to resolve or terminate. Yeah.
I think James makes a great point, you know, it's just save everybody time and money and
Mhm.
miles and just delay it and then just have that final one and then that's it.
Okay,
I think that's what we should try to do.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So whatever that fourth Tuesday in May is,
I think it was the 19th.
19th?
Fourth Tuesday? '26th.
26th of May?
So that's the day after Memorial Day? Will be
I
baling hay.
didn't plan it.
We'll be chopping hay, but that's okay. It works for me, whatever.
Should be a quick meeting.
May is busier
Yeah.
than February, but I guess it is
Well,
what it is.
Unless you want to decide to move it up a week for
Wow.
what,
Let's just have it.
Could move, if the audit's not done, we can push it back.
right,
Or if the audit's done earlier, we can
Mhm.
move it back to February.
Right.
I suppose you can say tentatively May 26th, and then depending on how the audit comes, and it'll be a communication among the board members, the best. Okay,
Most efficient.
okay. Sounds good.
All right. So, May 26th. We don't need to have a vote or anything on that, probably. We just decided that's next meeting.
Yeah.
Do
But
it as
we- But we
circumstances.
will need to post for the February scheduled
Yeah.
meeting.
Do
That
the-
it's
do
not
the
a notice.
circumstances. All right. So I guess that's it. Unless someone has any other business, probably not. Okay, so it's like meeting adjourned then. At whatever time. I
I'll
gotta-
move.
I'll second.
Okay.
10:21.
The end of an era.